And away we go. It is the Nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com, brought to you as always by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Head down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. Contact Shane. Have him cater your party, cater your tailgate, cater your watch party, or go to the app, get delivery. He posted the delivery range. It pretty much is the entire 275 loop. If you live in the 275 loop, you can get Galactic Fried Chicken delivered to your house 95% of the places. And it'll still be hot because I go down to Dayton, Kentucky. I drive the 20, 25 minutes back to my house. It is still warm. It's still delicious. I tested that out a couple days ago. What was that? Thursday or Friday? I think it was Friday. And it was fantastic. So there you go. All right, Aaron, let's get going.
Did want to say, again, thanks to Dave for filling in last night. And it is 15% instead of 10%, as 15%. I mentioned last night.
Yeah, you did your best. You didn't have the read. Like, I have it memorized. I've done it a lot. Yeah. I would think by osmosis.
I thought it was 15%, but I didn't want to offer an extra 5% and be wrong.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'd rather undershoot and overdeliver than.
It just tells me you're doing other things when I'm doing the ad read because you're not listening at all.
That's accurate.
Which is what an executive producer does. You produce, and I talk. And my wife and child don't listen to me when I talk. So I don't know why the third person I talk to more than anyone else in my life would listen to me either. You're probably ahead of my dad. You and my dad are in a tight race for who I speak to the third most in my life.
I don't know how to feel about that, but
it is what it is. I had to leave the hospital today, go get Kelsey from volleyball and come home to do the BBP and this show right here. And my dad's like, "You still working tonight?" Yep. I gotta spend my night with Aaron. That's what we do.
We were doing the Fred Durst thing again, so I turned my head around.
I don't care.
I got you. Thing. It's fine.
I'm guessing now with like the new lighting, I don't have the same shadow problem that I used to have.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to both do the Bearcat Journal
right.
hat.
I'll just stop wearing this hat during our shows.
All right, we're 3+ minutes in. Let's get moving.
There's plenty to get to.
There's plenty to get to. How about this? Jizzle James. Wes Miller was in Florida tonight for an in-home visit with Jizzle James. And while that visit was happening, Jizzle James tweeted out this.
Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You know what else happens tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Aaron?
From my understanding, PTP starting 15 minutes early, and it might simultaneously broadcast on both the PTP channel and the BCJ channel for the first time.
So maybe there will be something to talk about tomorrow night at 9 p.m. if Wes Miller can get this done. But hypothetical. You've got Rayvon Griffith right around a top 50 prospect in the 2023 class. Jizzle James right around a top 2023 prospect. Top 50 prospect in the 2023 class. It's been a long time since Cincinnati's gotten 2 top 50 level guys in the same class. Set Isaiah Collier aside. Set the fact that Flory Badunga is making his first unofficial visit to Cincinnati tomorrow. Set that aside. If you're Wes Miller and you start your first full class with Jizzle James and Rayvon Griffith, I don't know how you couldn't be thrilled with the direction that Wes Miller has pointed this program in as they head to the Big 12.
Absolutely. And that's, again, without mentioning any of the other names that we've heard floated around. And those are all also highly touted kids. So swinging for the fences. And that's what this fan base has been clamoring for a long time. And you're finally starting to see somebody come in and do just that, but not only swing, but make some pretty solid contact.
Here's the thing for me on Jizzle, if they get this done. Mike White was at Florida, and Mike White made Jizzle James a priority at Florida. And then he moved to Georgia when Tom Crean was fired, and continued to make Jizzle James their number one priority. This is a guy that has built, and Mike White's a really good coach. Like, he had success at Florida. He's going to have success at Georgia. If you're able to come in and just snatch a kid like that, that tells me, and Chad Dollar, this would be the biggest, outside Landers Nolly is probably the biggest Chad Dollar win to date.
In Cincinnati.
What do you mean?
I mean, Chad
yeah,
Dollar.
Anthony, talking about since he got hired in Cincinnati.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards is obviously
right.
the biggest.
I just didn't want that.
No, you're right. But here, Landers Nolly was Chad Dollar's first, like, I get shit done. If he can get, along with Wes Miller, if he can get Jizzle James done on a kid that the national conversation throughout the summer was that Georgia had a Tyler Scott versus the Tulsa defense lead.
Nailed it.
I nailed that one. I'm gonna bask in that one for a second. If they're able to close this gap and get this kid done after the official visit, when he had an official visit to LSU that was in the works, and potentially a trip back to Georgia for a final official visit before signing day. If they sold, like, think about what you have to sell Edgerrin James, an NFL Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
On
who, by the way, when we saw him, he's very to himself.
Nondescript. Like, he was not flashy. He just had on like a normal little, like, jumpsuit. Like,
it was sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah, like he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was not.
When he was
seeking attention
on the field, he had headphones in. Like, he wasn't really trying to interact with people. Like,
when I first was surveying the land, I had no idea that was Edgerrin James. Initially.
I did.
Well, I mean, but when you're looking across, like, trying to pinpoint, who's who,
I recognized.
I saw him, but I wasn't instantly like, that guy stands out.
Well, he wasn't surrounded by people. I think people got the
right.
idea.
I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, he didn't. I think everybody got the idea that he wasn't here for. It was his son's day, not his day.
Right.
Right. He's apparently made it very clear. Like, this is not about me. Don't make it about me.
And
this is about him.
I think it would have been very easy if the staff didn't have a great pulse on things, that everybody would have been surrounding Edge.
Right.
The focus would have been on him. If we win the dad, we get the kid. No, the focus was winning the kid.
Right.
And the dad has had his time. Like, what hasn't Edgerrin James done?
Right.
Won a Super Bowl, gone into the Hall of Fame. Like, he's done everything you can do. So you make him comfortable with the fact that we're going to take care of your kid like he's one of ours. Like, like, we're you. Like, we're an extension of you.
Yeah.
So I give them a huge amount of props for the way that they handled that, because I think it's big time.
Yeah.
We'll find out Apparently, we don't know what he's announcing tomorrow night at 9:00. He's already announced his final three. I don't know what else there is to announce. I would tune in to Pardon the Punctuation tomorrow night at 9:00. I'm just saying. That's what I would do if I were you. And we usually have a couple hundred people that listen to this.
Yeah.
9:00 tomorrow night. I want all of you listening to PTP. How about that? You have something.
Yeah, there's a couple stories that came out today about different sports, and just thought they were interesting as the landscape continues to change in both college football, college basketball, and it's, I think, worth having a conversation about. The first story that came out was from Joseph Hoyt, who is a sports reporter for the Dallas News covering SMU and the Texas Rangers. And he says, a development in a new era of college football. Multiple SMU players plan to sit out the rest of the season with intention to preserve their redshirt year and enter the transfer portal. Multiple SMU staff members with knowledge of the situation said. Now, before we talk about that, the other situation that I wanted to bring up is this one here about Gonzaga's Drew Timme.
Yeah.
And that comes from Front Office Sports, who is basically referencing an interview with Fox Sports. Drew Timme says he would have made roughly $200,000 to $500,000 in his first season if he'd gone pro. He says he'll make more money from NIL by staying at Gonzaga. Very different stories, two different sports, but both kind of showing what is going on in the landscape of things as these two sports are running parallel, but kind of moving away from each other in the way that the students are reacting to the new landscape.
So the SMU stuff, it sounds like it's not guys that have much of an impact on their 2 deep. Guys that were maybe playing special teams or maybe playing backup roles, saying, I don't want to burn my red shirt when I intend to transfer. This is, remember, football, everybody instituted the NCAA instituted transfer windows.
Correct.
Where you can only transfer in these specific windows. There was going to be a reaction to that because, remember, this is about the time of year when we started to see guys entering the transfer portal. Well,
yeah.
you can't enter the transfer portal now, according to the NCAA, and retain or gain immediate eligibility at your new school. So what are guys going to do now? Everything is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The equal and opposite reaction is, I'm not letting you play me 5 games and waste a year of eligibility here.
Right.
My guess is what this leads to is the elimination of the 4 games.
That'd be interesting.
Where you got 4 games. And it always, and like in basketball, if you're healthy and you play 1 second of one game,
mm-hmm.
you burn that season.
Mm-hmm.
There's a percentage, I think it's like 10 games or 30%, where if you get injured and you're out for the rest of the year, you can get a medical red shirt. And I think it's 4 games in college football, 10 games in college basketball. But in terms of college football going to this system where they were trying to curtail transfers
mm-hmm.
by saying, we'll let you play 4 games and you can maintain your eligibility and not burn a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now players are saying, okay, well, I'm going to play those 4 games. And then I'm going to sit and I'm going to transfer when the window opens. Because I'm not going to let you use me going forward.
So do you think we see more situations like a Luther Richardson where they just feel out how camp goes and bounce because
No, because nobody's dumb enough to think they're going to jump 3 guys
well, and
that are better
I simply
10
mean
days into camp.
well that was obviously a little bit different of a situation, but I guess
You
I'm saying
brought his name up. I didn't bring his name up.
I just mean where they bounce out before they burn anything because they got to feel after camp
You don't have to do
didn't
that.
go after camp didn't go the way they thought it might go.
But Luther Richardson still hasn't found a home.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't
He's
going to
not
play.
going to school anywhere.
He also wasn't going to play special teams, so I mean we kind of knew a little bit different
Of course,
situation.
But he waited. He was so dumb about how they did this, and fucking dumb is the right way to describe it.
Not him necessarily, but the camp.
It's his life.
Sure.
Yes, the blame goes into the people supporting him, but he allowed this to happen in his life. He's not in school right now. He's not with a team getting better. You took me.
I'm sorry. We don't need to get into the weeds on that. But in any case, like I said, college football, a little bit different than college basketball. In college basketball, do you find it interesting that you have a guy like Drew Timme who would, by all counts, be drafted, but doesn't want to take a situation where he's only going to be making, by his estimation, by whoever is a draft estimator, looking at where he might end
because
up.
like if you're a second round guy, some of those second round guys get guaranteed contracts, but they're not big. They're not nearly as big as if you're Drew Timme at Gonzaga.
Right. But now due to the NIL, you have a guy staying at Gonzaga and going to make more money doing that than he would by going pro. And I want to bring up
a great example.
Well, I want to bring up another question to you, and as part of this, before you get into what you're going to get into, is you have guys that are coming to play college hoops from other countries that are not eligible for NIL. Yeah. And this would be significantly different a decision for them than it would be for Drew Timme.
Sure. Like if you're a foreign guy coming over, you have to know. Like I wonder if we're going to find a workaround on that.
I was going to say at some point you're going to have to figure out how to have a work education visa simply for the NIL.
Right. Let's say like hypothetically UCLA. They're in the running for Isaiah Collier. They're in the running for Elmarker Jackson. They are going to need a point guard on their roster next year. Mm-hmm. If they don't get their top 2 targets, you have Tiger Campbell, mm-hmm. who is in his 5th year. He redshirted. He has a COVID year.
Yeah.
Tiger Campbell is probably not going to be an NBA first-round draft pick. Tiger Campbell is probably an overseas basketball player or a G League basketball player.
Second round, right.
That's going to have to work his way. He's had a phenomenal career at UCLA. Does UCLA say, hey, here's $1 million, here's $1.5 million, come back for year 6? And does the kid say,
I'd like to make that run for a championship run again?
Yeah, right. Does the kid say, you know what, that's more money than I was going to make the other way. So yeah, I'll come back and I'll be your point guard in year 6. Or does the kid say, I'm going to roll the dice and take my chances? Like, these are the conversations that are going on around the sport.
It's also making it to where we've talked for years. How do you entice a kid to stay in school for 4 years?
Oscar Tshiebwe stayed at Kentucky instead of going to the NBA.
And I think with the NIL, that's one positive thing that's come out of the NIL outside of the guys actually getting paid is the fact that you could potentially keep a guy around to see it all through as opposed to jumping to go overseas and make money because he's a broke-ass college kid who needs to help support his family.
Right. Guess what? Sometimes at 22, 23, 24, they're not kids anymore.
They have families of their own.
Right. They've met a girl. They've gotten married. They got a baby. They got to support their family. Mm-hmm. Not all of them are idiots like us thinking they can make $0 for 10 years to build a fucking YouTube podcast network. Is what it is. All right. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's the Nightcap. Brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.